that's a continuing theme with this band, kind of light in the darkness and, you know, trying to embrace some positivity in spite of playing big, scary music. I mean, I don't think it's any secret of what's been going on in the world the last 2-3 years, especially the Ukraine war was like a really big, kind of profound one that we all took a look at and talked about a lot in the practice space. But like, okay, like how do we make music that people will feel good about though at the same time? Like we're playing heavy metal, we're playing classic heavy metal inspired music. It's, you know, we're also not scary people. Like we're pretty just like, I'd like to think we're nice guys at heart.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Season of Mist. Season of Mist are the world's largest independent metal label. That's right. And it also happens to be the label that Cryptopsy will be releasing their brand new album, as well as a bunch of their back catalog on. I am beyond stoked to be on Seasons of Mist. I have been loving my experience. The whole team is simply incredible, and I'm super excited to continue Cryptopsy's legacy as a Season of Mist artist. In the next few weeks, Season of Mist has amazing releases coming up, starting with Keep of Kalson, who will be dropping Reptilian on March 21st. And Drutk will be dropping Shadowplay also on March 21st. Wrath of Ligarius will be dropping Crown of Mortis on April 4th. And Rotting Christ will be dropping 35 Years of Evil Existence, their live album, also on April 4th. A little Canadian band called Cryptopsy will be re-releasing their first demo, Ungentle Exhumation. That's right, Ungentle Exhumation is back, people, and it is going to be dropping on April 11th. And Changeling will be dropping their self-titled record on April 25th. Nightfall have their album Children of Eve coming out on May 2nd. And a little Canadian band, that's right, Cryptopsy once again will be re-releasing None So Vile. That's right, you hear it here. None So Vile is going to be re-released by Seasons of Mist on May 9th. There are so many amazing albums coming out from Seasons of Mist. I'm so goddamn stoked to be collaborating with them. Massive cheers to you all. Go check out Seasons of Mist. They have all of these releases that I just talked about and so many more. Do it, people. You will not be disappointed. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that just loves extreme metal and happens to also enjoy craft beers, well, you should definitely let them know that the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast exists. You can tell them that there are over 480 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians, and we talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you would encourage one of your craft beer-loving metalhead friends to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I'm very stoked to be with Avi and Scott of Nite. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops, episode number 491.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm very, very stoked to be with Avi and Scott of Nite. We are label mates. This is a Season of Mist presents Vox and Hops episode, and I love doing this. I love to connect with my roster mates to talk to them right before their records come out because we share the same publicist. Huge shout out to Will, who's just freaking wonderful and one of the best in the game. I'm so happy to be supported by him, and I know that he's been taking good care of you guys, and that's why we're having this chat right now, because you're dropping a new record. It comes out tomorrow, comes out on March 14th, Cult of the Serpent Sun. How you guys doing?
Great, man.
Doing awesome. Thanks so much for having us, man.
We're very happy to be here. It's Vox and Hops, where I hang out with my metal friends. We talk about life and music while sharing craft beers. What beers, or if you're going to have a beer, what are you guys having on your side? What are you sipping on throughout this conversation? We'll start with Scott.
Well, today I have Birra, Birra in the Italian style, from, Levante Brewing Company of Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so nice afternoon beverage.
Hell yes, it is. And we in Montreal here, we have a brewery called Birra, was funnily enough, which just celebrated, I want to say, their 8th anniversary this year. It's on Saint Laurent Boulevard. It is ran by a wonderful human who also runs another brewery called Silo, which is all Czech and German-inspired lagers. And they're celebrating their 5th anniversary this Saturday, actually. So you've reminded me that I got to go to this and drink another beer, because that's what everyone wants from me. Avi, how about you? Are you going to be sipping on something?
Unfortunately, I can't sip on a beer while we're chatting, but I'd love to throw a shout out to my favorite local brewery here in the Bay Area, if that's cool.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I know you're familiar with them, Matt. They're called Ghost Town Brewing.
I have it written right here on my paper that I was going to bring it up. So, yes.
Oh, yeah, all right. So Ghost Town will come up then. But yeah, if I was drinking a beer, I'd probably be sipping on a Geisterfaust by Ghost Town.
Oh, hell yeah. That I love Ghost Town. I'd only ever been to the Oakland one. I know that they have a few tap houses. I don't know if they still have a few tap houses, but I know they did back in the day. And funnily enough, every time when Cryptopsy would roll through San Francisco, we would end up playing at the Metro, I think it was called, in Oakland, which was this big, empty, broken place.
Good description.
And it's so close to Ghost Town, and I didn't know it at the time. And then when I did finally go back and play true San Diego at the DNA Lounge, which has that ridiculous stage, the spaceship stage, we call it, because Flo is up on this weird riser. It's 2 levels. Yeah. Don't do that, people. I had to take a ridiculous Uber ride to go to Ghost Town because I wanted to go and hang out there. But I did it, and it was absolutely worth it. Last time I went to Berkeley, though, we played Berkeley, and then I made my way over to Ghost Town, and I had a great time. Always have a good time. They have killer beers, and it's ran by incredible humans, wonderful metalheads, and I just love them to death. And I can't wait to get back there, hypothetically, later this year. My side, I'm showcasing a newer beer from Boréale. Boréale is probably the biggest microbrewery. It's a macro brewery with a little microbrewery side project that they release these special episode every month. They drop about 2 of them every month, and this is a return because I think it came out in September when I was on tour with Carnifex. This is called Osmose. It's a New England IPA. I'm a dirty haze whore. I pretend to be a beer nerd and that I've graduated onto lagers and stuff. I do like that and smoked lagers. I do, but I still gravitate back to New England IPAs, especially after coming back from a Latin American tour where all I drank was Modelo. This is a 7% hazy IPA with Nelson Sauvin, Hopkeef, Motueka Hopkeef, and Cohia Nelson Hopkeef. And then there's a weird Citra hops in it for some reason. It's like a bunch of New Zealand hops, and they dropped in some Citra. That's what I'm going to be crushing. Massive cheers to you guys for hanging out with me. Talk about your first beers. Avi, do you remember that first beer that you ever drank?
I do, yeah. So I was 18 years old and in London, England. I was there for like a school trip. And so my first beer, it was whatever English bitter was at the pub at that time.
The hand pump?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, room temperature. I was so confused.
It's weird, eh? I remember our first UK tour going and like having a beer and being like, what is wrong with this beer? And then now we go to craft beer places and me pretending to be a craft beer enthusiast. I'm like, I'll have the hand cask because that's what's expected of me. But I like it. No, I do. It's an acquired taste, though, for sure. What was that experience like, though? You finally have that beer. Was it enjoyable? Did you have a good night afterwards? Did you get a bit rowdy?
Yeah. So the cask ale was not my thing. At first, I was just so confused. I was like, I thought it was supposed to be carbonated. I thought it was supposed to be cold. What is this? Because you go to London and everyone's just like, oh, order a bitter, get a bitter. And so I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. I wasn't super into the taste, but then I felt kind of buzzed for the first time ever. Like,
you can't feel your lips. Kid having it's wonderful.
Yeah.
They're onto something though, because there's this whole new trend about like hard pouring beers. Maybe it's like my drinking friends, people like not craft beer enthusiasts, but people that like to get volume into them quickly. So they hard pour their beers to get the carbonation out. So maybe the UK peeps are onto something because there's no carbonation in the cask things. They could drink more beer because you don't get all bloated and bubbled up.
Yeah, you get full.
Yeah. Maybe they're onto something. How about you, Scott?
It wasn't a rowdy night though. Yeah.
No, it wasn't a rowdy night.
No.
Good for you. Be responsible all the time, people. Scott, how about you? First beer.
I don't have a clear memory of my first beer, but I do. So I was pretty dorky in high school, and similar to Avi, had a late. I grew up in a town that was the only thing to do was go in the woods and drink, and I didn't do that because I was a dork. But that's what everyone did in high school.
You were playing guitar.
I was playing guitar and reading, fantasy novels or whatever. And then, maybe in high school I had like a sip of, like a blue fruity liquor or something. But no,
okay,
I was
like a cocktail.
I like this. Right, yeah. But then in college, I did come around to the beer universe, and what I do remember, it wasn't my first beer, but I remember it somewhat, is I was in this like advertising club because I did a major in that, and we won a contest in New York. I went to college in Pennsylvania. We were in New York City, big city for me, and our like chaperone, or it was a student chaperone, like smuggled all of us. I think I might have been of age. I don't honestly remember, but plenty of us were not. And this was a time when you could still like bribe your way into the bar. And we're like, hey, we've got like 40, 18 to 20 something year olds that want to come in your bar. Like, maybe don't check all of those IDs.
Just $50.
Right.
Look that way for about 2 minutes.
Exactly. So our little like winning, high on winning our little contest, went into this bar, and I remember ordering, I believe it was a Miller Genuine Draft, and I drank it in New York City, and I felt, pretty excited about it. So,
well, when you win, there's that high. It's the best thing ever. And then when it's the habits of enjoying a luxury item. A beer is a luxury item, so it's a nice way to celebrate. But you got to keep it for those celebrations sometimes, not all the time. Did you fall into the craft beer enthusiast? You do have a Birra.
Yeah. Later, it took me. I'm a slow learner, but over as the craft beer boom kind of took off, and I'm sure I wasn't at the early edge of that, but my wife and I moved to Chicago at some point, and
Chicago's crazy.
Entry level stuff like, I don't know, that's probably derogatory, but like Goose Island, I know they're bought out now, but things like that were around, and Revolution Brewing were like, oh, okay, let's go to these tap rooms and do this. So yeah, eventually kind of caught on to the craft brew interest, and have kind of went through my phase of trying the hazy IPAs and all the a lot of things, and kind of older, know thyself. I think now I'm like, yeah, I just kind of like pilsners and lagers and quieter.
It's the wise decision, because the ABVs are always higher. Like the 7% on this is 2% higher than a lager, and if you're going to have 4 or 5 of them, those 2% add up to extra beers.
They do,
and that's what that's why I survived Latin America drinking Modelo's, because it's hot in Latin America. It's easy to drink a bunch of beers. If I was crushing as many as I did and crushing 7%ers, I would not be sitting here now. I might not have made it home. But we did, and shout out to Chamuco Productions for doing a great job organizing the whole tour. If anyone wants to go tour South America, I suggest using Chamuco, and that is not a paid ad. He did pay me to play, but not to say that. Classic question: soundtrack of your youths when you're growing up in your parents' or guardians' house. What music was playing when you guys were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to? Let's talk to Avi. You go take that one first, please.
Yeah, so my parents are from India, like legit, like from India, moved here in the 1980s. So when I was growing up, it was a lot of Hindu classical music. So yeah, and that's all religious music. So there's a lot of kind of Hindu prayer music going on. So it may not have been on the radio, but my mom would sing every morning. She'd sing her prayers in the morning, and on the weekends, I'd be joining her when I went out to go to school and all that. But so that's kind of what was playing in the house. My dad listened to a lot of classic rock too, a lot of Cream, a lot of Jimi Hendrix. But once I got a hold of the radio, that's when things got a lot louder in the house.
Did they react strangely to that, going from like such religious music? Although your dad listened to Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff, which is a bit blasphemous in that eye too. But did they react strangely to you bringing in, hypothetically, the devil into the house?
At first, no. So my parents were really cool about this. I was playing a lot of video games as a kid too, because that was when like Halo and Gears of War, all the Call of Duty, all those games were starting to get pretty popular. And my parents were so not about that. They're just like, this is stupid. This is violence. It's expensive. It's $60 for a video game. They're like, screw this. We hate every aspect of this. But when I started getting into music, CDs were already really cheap. So you could go to the record store and get like, 10 CDs for like $50 or something like that. And so instantly my parents were stoked. They were like, wow, so
this is an affordable, we will encourage this hobby of yours.
Well, totally. And so I remember I got like Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, which those lyrics are not family friendly. But my dad was so excited because he's like, I spent $8 on this to buy you this. You're going to listen to this for the rest of your life. That video game that you would made me pay $60 for, you're going to play for like 15 hours and you're going to get sick of it. So he was so stoked. Like, he was so excited. Now, when thrash and death metal started being played around a little bit more, then he was like, oh no, what have I done? But for those first few years getting into music, they were so excited, and they're still super supportive to this day.
That's amazing. I love that. My parents too, they come out to gigs and stuff. To this day, it's amazing. How about you, Scott? The soundtrack of your youth?
Yeah, so it was kind of two main ingredients. So my parents listened to a lot of oldies, 50s, early 60s stuff. I always joke, it's not really even a joke, it's true. My parents are of the age that when, how to say it, like the coolest thing that they like is maybe early Beatles. Like by the time everything that's the foundation for what I would call, rock and metal and, like Hendrix and so forth, like the late 60s, they were out. They were like, that's too...
It was too out there for them. Okay.
Too out there. They were, bubblegum, Motown. That was about as far as they went. So it was a lot of that, a lot of like 50s early rock and roll, and then a lot of country, actually. But the better country. As a kid, I didn't understand that or have that perspective. Now I do know. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll listen to some, George Jones or some, Johnny Cash or whatever, So this was before, obviously, the advent of the whatever passes for modern country.
It's so interesting how we step away from what our parents listened to, and then as we age, we gravitate back to it. I was such a nu metal child that anything with a guitar solo was my dad's music, because he was like a classic rock guy, 80s Metallica, anything. But I was such a nu metal child, so I was so on brand, because anything with a guitar solo in that era was just not cool, which is just crazy, to the point where I thought Dream Theater was old, even though it wasn't, until I finally understood that I was out of touch with what was actually happening in the music scene. But it's great to gravitate back to what you listened to as a child and then look at it with more mature ears, and then there's like that emotional attachment to it, and then there's a more rich, the lyrics of the older stuff tend to be richer too, and us as an older listener can appreciate it at a different level.
Totally.
First shows, do you remember your first times on stage? Avi?
Yeah, I remember my very first time on stage, and Scott was there for this.
No way.
So you have a small connection to this too, Matt. My first show ever was with a band called Wild Hunt, and our guitar player was named Jameson Kester.
Oh, I totally know Jameson Kester. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So
that's how I know Ghost Town is because of him.
Yep. Through Labored Breath, everything.
No way.
Yep.
I haven't seen him in a long time. Cheers to Jameson.
Yep. To Jameson. Cheers. Hell yeah. But yeah, that was my very first show.
Oh, because he's from Pennsylvania too, right?
He is.
That's right, because when I interviewed him, he was at his parents' house visiting. What a small world. That's crazy. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, it was at the Golden Bowl in Oakland. And that was my very first show with them. And that was a progressive black metal band. So tons of crazy time signatures, weird mixed meter stuff.
Wow.
All over the place.
Right off the bat. Nothing simple.
No, that's...
Was it a disaster? It sounds like it was if it's a first show type, I'm imagining a disaster, but maybe it was.
It was not, actually. I mean, I was frozen on stage staring at my shoes while the rest of the guys were shredding around me, but it was an amazing turnout. My dad came out for that. Scott was there. Scott and I were already buddies.
That's so cool.
It was a fabulous first show. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
That's awesome. Scott, do you remember that night?
I do. I remember like the mix of like excitement and terror in Avi's eyes as he was.
that is a very good description of emotions on stage for the first time.
Like he was ready, but he was like wide-eyed,
yeah, like once you're actually there and the lights are there and the crowd is there, it's a moment. It's a moment that I still deal with to this day, that I have to remind myself to have fun.
Totally. Yeah. I still get like variants of stage fright and stuff sometimes, but but yeah, it was a good show. I remember it. It was packed, and it was a fun night.
How about you, Scott? First time on stage?
First time on stage. Again, I'm a little fuzzy. Like, I definitely know it had to be the youth center, which was above the police station in my little town that I grew up in.
Hence the drinking in the woods.
Right, exactly. You had to go elsewhere. But we were lucky, and we had this for such a small town, we had this little brief era that I coincided with. There was a little scene of mostly punk bands, but a few metal bands, and the only places to play, like, common back then was, the VFW halls and, house shows and stuff. And then, like, this public youth center where, I don't know how shows got set up there, but somehow they did. I didn't do it, but it had to be there. I don't particularly remember the first show, but it was with my high school metal band, and I'm sure I had a great time. I'm sure we played terribly and thought we were probably pretty good. probably was 5 minutes between songs while we tuned out loud, like, audibly. Yeah, tuning song. But it was, it was a pretty non-judgmental, supportive and fun thing. And, look back at it now as really lucky that we were kind of able to grow up before social media, before videos, and be bad in public, but also have a great time.
And at a point where there's a place that you could actually play, because there's a lot of places nowadays I don't think kids actually have the opportunity to perform in front of people. We have to be more like Sweden, more like Scandinavian countries, and give kids. There should be jam rooms in every library, people, with gear, a community hub where kids can go play instruments for free and make noise and be in a safe place and not have to, I don't know, go do weird
buy
things.
All that stuff, because it's a huge barrier to entry. Like, you don't know if it's like if you're obvious parents and they don't want to buy the expensive video game, like, they might want to buy the the expensive, even if it's a junky guitar. It's like, if you don't know if it's going to stick with it, and then they play it for a week and it goes in the closet. Like,
exactly.
Needs to be a place to try it out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the new album, Cult of the Serpent Sun. It's coming out tomorrow at this point, March 14th, Season of Mist. Talk about this new record. You're trying to bring some light. I read the press release. This is how I know these things. Trying to bring some light into the darkened world through black and death metal. Let's start with that. I feel like there's some oxymorons going on there.
Yeah, that's a continuing theme with this band, kind of light in the darkness and, trying to embrace some positivity in spite of playing big, scary music. I mean, I don't think it's any secret of what's been going on in the world the last 2-3 years, especially the Ukraine war was like a really big, kind of profound one that we all took a look at and talked about a lot in the practice space. But like, okay, like, how do we make music that people will feel good about, though, at the same time? Like, we're playing heavy metal, we're playing classic heavy metal inspired music. It's, we're also not scary people. Like, we're pretty just like, I'd like to think we're nice guys at heart.
So far, so good. You guys coming across as a very nice human.
Yeah, go for it, Scott.
Yeah. No, I mean, Avi's right. And there's a little bit of a paradox there, I guess, but, the band's called Night, and, a lot of the themes are obviously dark, and some of the songs are lyrics deal with war or, these darker topics. But I think there's an undercurrent or maybe an overt current of like independence and perseverance and strength and, inspiring without being self-help, like a self-help novel or something.
Yeah, it's not a PMA.
Right. Right.
But it's still there.
Yeah, it's yeah, and those are pretty classical metal themes too, just kind of inner strength and strength and community too. I mean, the first single, Crow, with the video, that has an element of that going on, where it's kind of about sort of the downtrodden, maybe the metal community kind of finding strength together and rising up. So
it's a very important thing in the metal community to stand together, because there's too many people that try to divide us as it is. We're not in record stores anymore, but they used to try to divide us by genre.
Right.
And now there's like politics coming in, dividing us within the genres. So it's like an extra division that just doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. We should just all rally together and for the love of metal and for the love of humanity, and hoping that we have a more beautiful future.
I agree. Agree.
When writing this record, was there something that you guys tried to do differently, something that you tried to push the envelope? I know we just finished a record. It's going to be announced soon, but I can't talk about it yet. But we had wanted to do more groove elements. We wanted to make it a little bit more digestible than previous Cryptopsy releases. What would be a goal that you guys aspire towards when you were writing this one?
So on the last album, Voice of the Crony Moon, we had a similar kind of journey of, a little more accessible songs, shorter songs that got to the point a little bit quicker. So this time, what we noticed from the last record is people really latched on to songs with big chanty choruses.
Okay.
The Trident.
Is that something that you, sorry to cut you off, is that something that you discovered by playing the songs live, or was it more of a online reception?
Absolutely. I mean, we got some online feedback too, but we hit the road for like 2 weeks after that last album came out. And right away, people instantly responded to that one song, The Trident, which the chorus is just, The Trident, The Trident. So we took that and we're like, okay, let's see if we can, take that to 11 on this next one. So there was that. The choruses were a big one. The other was really the rhythm section groove going on. So Night before, we were kind of known for that kind of Iron Maiden-y gallop stuff, and we still have songs like that. But this time, our drummer Patrick and I, we were driving in the van listening to Savatage and kind of mid-era Rainbow, or Dio-era Rainbow, I should say, specifically the song Gates of Babylon, and also God, Terror Woman. These like kind of big, fat, forward-the-floor grooves and stuff. Very, yeah, so really just made your body move. And so we latched onto that. We brought that back to Scott and Van, and we were like, guys, how can we do this? Let's do this. Can we make this like work in a night context? And so that really informed the songwriting in a huge way with songs like Crow, Winds of Sokar, that are just a lot more just like, again, forward the floor, stomping, pounding grooves that really just want to make your body shake a bit.
Awesome. How about you, Scott? Is there something you brought that for yourself that you brought to the...
Yeah, well, not just kind of speaking about the whole band still, like, we kind of continued from like Avi said, the last time we like making the song compact to the point, we like for the most part, and a verse chorus kind of, set up, not always, but, pretty digestible thing. That's the stuff that we grew up with. That's what we kind of want to make. So we continue that this time, but we did, whether intentionally or not, we kind of lean more into a little bit more aggressive sound on this album. I think like just a little riffier, still tons of melody, which is one of our trademarks. But I think we added a little more aggression in the riffs and a little more rhythm, as I was talking about. There's more, whether it's the four on the floor, but even some other, kind of rhythmic variations. And then as far as spreading our wings, we didn't get too wild with it, but there's a song, The Mystic, which was the third single, came out recently. That is a quasi ballad, or at least it's a slower, moodier song, which was is
that something that you could have never gotten away with before, you think?
Or we maybe took it farther than we had before. And, it's, much more moody and, more atmospherics. And that was a cool, thing, which maybe we'll do more of in the future. We'll see.
It's super interesting when you like unlock a room in your house that, let's say the band is the house, and you've discovered this back room that you can get away with.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can write songs like this now.
Yeah. And it totally, like, it feels, it's nice when it's not forced, you're just kind of like, you find it, like you said, and you're like, oh, this works too. We don't only have to do this. We can go downstairs too. We can go in the,
that's so interesting.
The balcony.
I love that. Seasons of Mist. I've been loving my experience with the label. It's about a year ago now that we started talks with Michael, and it's just been wonderful. We're so excited for the new era of Cryptopsy continuing with them. What has your experience been working with Seasons of Mist?
Oh man, so it was already good for Voices of the Crony Moon, and it's been even better for Cult of the Serpent Sun. Will Yarb, our mutual publicist for all of us, has been so great to work with, just busting out press releases left and right, really inviting our feedback to kind of make sure that it's in the voice of the band, that it's the way that we want to be portrayed. And also it's been wild. We've been seeing like playlist placements, like more views on our stream counts or YouTube views or whatever than ever before, and it feels like they really have our backs and want us to succeed too, which it feels amazing.
Hell yeah. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of a natural progression from, it's what you want to see from like the second to the third album. Like we're still, we know we're not a big fish on Season of Mist. We're working our way up, hopefully. And we understand there's only so much they can do, but they're really stepping up. And from the second album to the third album, we're seeing, like what Avi said, more reaction, more reach. And it's huge for a band of our level, that's trying to sort of break out, just to have that push of a decent sized, metal label with their global reach. It's been great. And Will and Gordon and, all these people have been excellent to work with.
Hell yes. I was going to mention Gordon. Shout out to Gordon, to Will, to Michael, Sabine, the whole crew. They're just wonderful. The largest independent metal label in the world. Everyone deserves to check out Seasons of Mist. You guys have a tour coming up. Avi was saying before Scott jumped into the chat. Give a little promo there. Where can people come see you? You're coming to Montreal, you said.
We are.
Yes.
Yeah. The second half of June this year, we're going to do a U.S. and Canadian run on the more eastern side of those regions. We've previously to this date really only played kind of the western half of the U.S.
Good. You're going to have fun.
San Francisco-based band. So, we're stoked. Going to start in Atlanta, work our way up, go up into all the way up past New York into, Montreal, Quebec City, I believe. There too. Yeah. And then back down, through Chicago and stuff. So, look for those dates.
Let's what's the lineup? Give people the juice there.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to go out on the road with Savage Master. And, so we've played some shows with them in the past, couple festivals like Frozen in Time in Fresno. We played with them here in the Bay Area. Scott goes way back with those folks with his other projects, multiple bands at this point that have played with them. They're awesome folks and good buddies, and I think it's a perfect pairing with Nite and Savage Master.
Hell yes. I love making collabs. It's something that I did a lot. Back in the day, I've released over almost 100 beers in the past 6 years of the podcast. I've created teas for Cryptopsy. I've made beers for Cryptopsies. I've made coffees for Cryptopsies. It's something I like to put my logo on things, or the band's logo on things that make sense with things that I love. Hot sauces. I've done it all. What would be the perfect Nite collab? It doesn't have to be a beer. It has to be something that matches your personality, that represents the band.
This is a good question. I don't think my brain is creative enough right now to come up with another thing, and we're already talking about beer, so I'm going to stick in that lane.
What would be the perfect Nite beer, and how do you call it?
I want to say, maybe this is a little on the nose, but I want to say like a roasted lager.
Ooh, yes, yeah. A smoky roach beer, sort of.
Yeah, like a
cult of the smoked sun.
Yes. Yeah, I want to say something like that. Maybe with Ghost Town. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm. Ryan? I think it's a good idea. I love it. One last question, the classic Vox and Hops wrap-up question. Probably doesn't happen to you guys very often because you guys drink low ABV beers and you're smart and you're not like me, or you're more like me recently than I have been in the past. But what are your hangover cures? Avi, what do you do when you wake up in the morning and you feel like shit after a night out?
Oh, God. Grab one of my cats and hold him for dear life.
That's good. That's the first time.
Yeah.
First time I've heard that one. Scott, how about you?
Oh, man. I don't think I have any secrets. I think it's just feel regret, drink a lot of water, feel more regret, and then, if possible, take a nap. Try to. The problem is actually having the time to do it as we get older. That just isn't granted to us. And then the extra thing is that when we want to take a nap, we actually can't fall asleep, and we just feel like shit. Yeah. Feel too warm. Feel awful. Yeah.
Avi and Scott, thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking about life, talking about music, talking about beer, talking about the brand new Nite record that's coming out on March 14th via Seasons of Mist. This has been a blast. Thank you guys so much hanging out with me. Looking forward to hanging out soon. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Man. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right today. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this is an incredible conversation. I'm so excited to have connected with Avi and Scott of Nite. Love hanging out with fellow label mates from Seasons of Mist. Our experience on Seasons of Mist has been incredible, so I know that theirs has been as well. Very excited about this brand new Nite record, Cult of the Serpent Sun. You should definitely check it out. I know you're going to like it. It's a banger of a record. Massive cheers to Avi and Scott. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcast. podcasts. I hope you have a great rest of the week. I will be back with another episode next Thursday. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.